Hello, if you've clicked on this link, you probably want to know what a flipped classroom is. Real quick, students, if you're here watching this video, you're watching the wrong one. This is the parent edition. Go ahead and close this out and find the one that says, what is a flipped classroom, student edition. Parents, I'll give them just a second to take care of that. Okay, should be just us now. My name is Steve Eckert here at Rockwood High School. I'm the American history teacher. And what I wanted to do is I just wanted to make a short presentation about what a flipped classroom is. This is something that I'm going to implement this year in my American history classes. We're doing a couple things different in Roane County this year, which I'll explain here in just a second. This is just meant to be an introduction to the flipped classroom so you know what's going to be happening in your students' classes. Real quick, I want to start out by taking a look at two different styles of teaching in classrooms. The first one is going to be the classroom that you are probably most familiar with, the classic classroom. So in a traditional or classic classroom, especially in a social studies classroom like American history, you have two spaces. On one side, you have what's called the group space. This is what happened during the school day. If your high school experience was anything like my high school experience, this is kind of how it worked. You came in your history class, you sat down, and then you had to take notes while your teacher lectured and droned on forever and ever and ever. And you probably fell asleep 2 or 3 times, just like I did. If you got really lucky, you had a teacher that wanted to do some group activities. So maybe every now and then you would do some kind of project or presentation. And that's kind of how it was. Then you have this individual space. We used to call it the homework space. This is where you'd get an assignment, you'd talk about something in class, then you'd have to go do some more stuff with that information. You usually review the materials, maybe get ready for a test or a quiz, or you'd have to write a paper, kind of the hard stuff. That was left to be done on your own. That's how things have been done pretty much since the dawn of teaching. This year, I want to introduce a thing called the flipped classroom here at Rockwood. And just like the name implies, it flips those two spaces. In a flipped classroom, the individual space is where students kind of get the information, they take the notes. In teaching, we call it front loading. The way things are going to work for me this year in American history, for you students in American history, is they're going to be required as homework to basically go home and watch videos very similar to these, where they're going to take notes. They're going to get all the information that they need to go on to do the harder stuff. Then when they get to class, that'll be an opportunity for us to review the material, to focus on the hard concepts. That'll give me an opportunity to kind of correct any kind of misconceptions that they have about some of the information. And probably more importantly, this gives us an opportunity to do a lot more fun things, group activities, things like Socratic seminars, project-based learning, stuff of that nature, stuff that we normally don't have time to do in the normal school day because in a traditional classroom, students would be too busy just listening to the teacher drone on and lecture. So that's what a flipped classroom is. Now, you may be asking, why on earth would you want to do this? Why I've decided to do this, why I think it's so awesome. A couple reasons. First of all, it provides for more interactions for me as a teacher with your students. It allows me to focus more one-on-one. Because the front loading or the note-taking portion is done at an individual pace, I can really work with those students that need the most help. It also helps you as a parent support your student in that you can watch the videos just like they are. You can help them decide what the important information is for their notes and stuff like that. Kind of coincidentally, it also kind of gives them time to pause or rewind if they thought they missed something. In a traditional classroom setting, while the teacher's up there lecturing, a student has to go and go and go, and it's very rare that a teacher will actually stop and let students catch up. With the flip model, because all the lectures, all the information, all the notes and stuff like that is self-paced. They can pause and rewind and go back and make sure they don't miss anything. And like I said, it also, the flipped classroom model allows us to do more active stuff. We can do projects, we can do group stuff. It allows your student to engage and learn in a much deeper fashion. And studies have shown that when students are more engaged, they begin to push themselves. It's called intrinsic motivation, big fancy educational word there for you. So why have I specifically decided to do this year in the U.S. history classes? Well, our history class here at Rockwood, or our U.S. history class, is not your grandpa's old history class. Roane County has adopted a new American history class it's actually called the Statewide Dual Credit American History 2. Big fancy name for U.S. history. But what does that mean? Statewide dual credit is a program that the state of Tennessee has implemented that in certain classes, such as American history, that at the end of the school year, students will take a test. It's called the challenge exam. If they score high enough on that exam, they'll earn a college credit that is good for any Tennessee state school. It's a fantastic program. It allows students to kind of get a leg up on their college education. But because of that, they're expected to do a whole lot more. Part of my job now as a statewide dual credit American history teacher is I have to get them to read like a historian. I need them to think like a historian. Probably the most important of all is they need to know how to write like a historian. Part of the challenge exam is them writing a couple essays, and those essays are probably the hardest part of that exam. I want to make sure that they can do those three things very well. It's very hard to do that and also deliver content. That's why I've decided to flip, to be able to teach them the extra things. Because here at Rockwood, we've got 50 minutes. Being able to teach reading like a historian, thinking like a historian, writing like a historian, and get all those lectures in 50 minutes, that is a lot to do, and it's impossible. By doing the flipped classroom, we can get one of those things out of the way. I can get the lecturing done as homework. They can take some notes on it. We can come back and then use that information to focus on things like knowing how to read like a historian, starting to think like a historian, probably the most important of all, starting to write like a historian. That's why I've decided to try this flipped classroom thing. Now, is it going to be perfect? No, probably not. This is something new that we're trying out. I'm excited about it. I think it's a great idea. I think the students will really enjoy it. It'll allow us to do what we need to do to try to get as best prepared for that challenge exam as we possibly can get. So that's what's going to be happening. Because really and truly, it's all about being prepared. By the time students leave my class, I want them to be prepared for that challenge exam. If they plan on going on to college, I want them to be prepared for college. College is not what it used to be. It has gotten a lot tougher. And I want to make sure that they have every bit of opportunity to be as successful as they can. And, you know, even if they're not college bound, I want them to be as prepared for life as they possibly can be. And being able to do things like know how to read well, know how to write well, thinking on their own, those are great life skills to have. And I hope by doing this flipped classroom, it's going to give me a chance to get them as prepared for life as we possibly can have them. So, big concept here, flipped classroom. It's going to be different, but I think your students are going to love it. I think they're going to learn an immense amount in American history this year. And I think if they take a lot of this stuff to heart, if they focus, I think they have a great shot at being able to get that college credit before they even graduate high school. So thanks for taking the time to watch this short video, this presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot me an email, to contact me. You can see my email address there. I also wanted to do just a real quick thing that we do a thing in class called Remind, remind.com. It's a text messaging service that allows me to send out mass text messages for class announcements, class reminders, things like that. If you want to get in on that, you are more than welcome to know what's going on with your student's class. All you need to do is text that code at 26K7E2 to the number 81010. It's that simple. It'll ask you to submit a little bit of information, and boom, you're on board. It's also a great way from that messaging service. You can also send me messages. I'd love to have you on board as well. Again, thanks for taking the time to watch this presentation. We really do appreciate it. Looking forward to having your student in class this year. It's going to be a great one. Thank you so much.